Peter, you're very still. I know you're moving again.
All right.
Are we good to go?
Good to go.
G'day, everybody. Welcome to Trash Talk number 26. I'm Ian Maverick. I'm coming to you from a cold, wintry Melbourne, Australia at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning to bring you 2 hours of talk about our favorite computers, see what we're all up to, see how our plans for the rest of this year, and yeah, what we'll do is the same as every other time. We'll go around the room, see see what everyone's been doing. If you haven't been doing much, just say hi and we'll move on to the next one. I don't have many rules around here. The only rules really is that your cell phones or mobile phones are set to silent, and no one's allowed to swear except me because I'm Australian.
Yeah. And everybody takes a drink when Mav swears.
Yeah, that's right. All right. And I see that we've got some of the English there. Hey, Steve. Hey, Dusty.
Hey, Mav.
Cool. Let's start with well, I haven't spoken to Eric for a while, so Eric, what's up?
Well, not much. Just not enjoying the heat down here in Texas.
It's hot as hell, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
Oh, you were very excited about something on the Discord this morning.
Me?
Yeah. Didn't you pick up
Oh, I
something
thought that
nice?
was last night. Yeah,
Oh, maybe.
I just won a video genie on eBay coming out of Belgium. So I'm waiting to hear back from the seller on packaging.
Is
So
it
I'm
a
looking
color?
forward to that.
Is it a color genie or just a regular genie?
It's the genie one. So
Okay, all right. There is a color version of it which has like a VIC-20 keyboard. It's a really weird looking thing. I bet you'd
Yeah.
love to get one of those.
yeah, I think that would be a neat one to have. But this one goes along with the System 80 and PMC 80. So another one of
Yeah.
that set.
The triplet set.
Yeah.
Have you already got a genie one? From memory, you got one, but it got smashed in transit.
It was sold as non-working and broken, and it did get a little more smashed in shipping, but it was already a parts machine to begin with.
And you have the expansion interface, right?
Yes, I have both the regular and the S100 one that I both got from Ian. So
Cool, quite a collection you're building there. Good to hear,
Yeah.
Eric. All right. Well, I'll just go to Peter. Peter Stinsky. How you going, brother?
I'm doing great, Mav. How you doing, mate?
Oh yeah, can't complain. I mean, I'm dressed to go to church, but none of the churches here will. I'm banned from them for heckling the padre. So
No, you're at the church right now, ma'am. This is the church.
Church of Candy. I got a few things to talk about. Let's see. First one, I want to talk about the podcast. So we released a new episode since the last time we had the live show. So we're still doing that. And we have big news to announce that we passed 250,000 downloads of the podcast. So really exciting news for us. I know in some circles that's not much, that's small, but for our little area of interest, I think it's pretty significant. So, like we say, we'll keep talking as long as you keep listening. So as long as we see we're getting thousands of downloads per episode, we'll keep doing it, and it's fun. So we haven't run out of things to talk about, not even close. Right?
yeah, and every week it seems someone turns up with a computer that's damaged in the mail. So we've always got stuff to talk and help them about. So yeah.
Always new accessories coming out and new devices that this active community is working on. So thank you to everyone. Ken Bruckner said he will not be able to join us today, but he wanted me to share a video with everyone. And it's sort of a teaser video. So let me share my screen here. It's only about a minute. Here we go. There's no audio, so. So try to figure out what it is. Anybody have any idea what's going on in this video?
I'm not allowed to say.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
It's an
I mean-
MPU
Hold all
board.
questions till the end of the video.
Okay. I mean, I see Xenix kernel being rebuilt. That's cool in it of itself.
Yeah, it was very cool. About 2 a.m.
All right,
And
so that's it there.
there we have it.
Memory expansion.
MMU?
It is a memory board and maybe something more.
And tell me about recompiling the kernel. How was that done?
There were holes in its mind. I literally had to rewrite some like missing source files. So yeah, I was up pretty late last night working on that, trying to, it's just, the source was gone. It just, I don't know where it went to, or, but you know, the make file clearly wanted them to be there, and you know, it was close enough that I could look at it, look at some old listings and things and go, wait, I think I remember how this is put together. And I like literally rewrote the missing bits last night. And just right around 2 a.m. I got the first link and I was just like, so thanks to
we can we can create new versions of Tandy Xenix.
you can link them.
Okay.
It's not quite functional yet. So I got more work to do in that department, but the fact that it linked was huge. Big thanks to Bobby for that. He took the first set of steps in that direction. And once I was able to sit down with it and look over like just kind of what all the pieces that were missing, then you know, that's where I got late last night. So that was big. I wasn't expecting it to actually link, but you know, of course it didn't run because, you know.
Sure. But are you confident that we'll get there?
I think I know what's wrong. I'm not sure why. Again, I had to recreate some sources from scratch, so I might not have lined things up quite right when I did that. So I'm gonna have to go back and, you know, like look at old things and try to compare, you know, the shadow of what used to be there with what I recreated and see like, okay, see if I can figure out what's off.
That's awesome. If anybody doesn't know, John was one of the developers on Tandy Xenix back in the day for Tandy. So if anybody can do it, he's the one to do it.
Memory.
Yeah, it's weird thinking about stuff I worked on 40 years ago.
Thought you've got rid of it back then, did you? And thought,
Well,
glad I don't have to touch this
moved
shit again.
on, worked on Unix, blah blah blah, you know, and now here I am all the way back to the beginning, as Inigo Montoya would say.
All right. So what is the title of that of what that video is attempting to accomplish?
Well, like I said, it is a memory board and maybe something more. That's all
Cool.
I'm allowed to say at this time.
All right.
We'll find out
See it.
at Tandy
Yeah.
Assembly. We'll find
So
out.
I'm sure there's going to be some of you that goes through that frame by frame to see what's on there. And there's more than a few clues in there that you be able to, you know, figure some things out. But that's all I'm authorized to say. on
Okay.
behalf of my other two partners at this time.
Thanks,
Okay.
John. Looks awesome. Okay. Peter,
So just a second, back to that. If we get to the point where we can build the kernel from scratch, then the next step obviously is somebody to make a 68040 board and build Xenix for that, right?
So I've believe it or not, I've actually given thought to this. 6830 or 40 would easy if you went that far, if you like made something that could, that had a built-in MMU and whatnot, it'd actually be better to like say port 2.9 BSD to it, because then you get all the sockets, you get everything that the MMU code in the Xenix kernel is extremely primitive. It's an all or nothing process, is either all in memory or it's not. So demand paging is a whole nother 10,000 foot level of sophistication, and it would be a lot better if you took someone that's already figured all this out, made it work in Unix, and then there's plenty of 68K Unix ports out there that already have functional MMU code. So that would be the way to go, in my opinion.
And I'll just say, looking at that video, I did see Sam Sawyer's name, so I think it's not a secret. And for those that don't know, Sam Sawyer was, I guess he was the lead designer of the Model 16. So he is working on something for the Model 16 today. So you can only imagine what it's going to be for us big Tandy fans. This is huge news.
It's allowed to say this is definitely for Xenix machines.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
nice.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Peter, any word on Tandy Assembly? How's that coming along?
Oh yeah. Let me share my screen again for that for just a minute or two. Give me 1 second.
When you're ready, Peter.
Okay, 1 second.
The arthritis in his hands.
Almost there.
you need cutscenes, Pete.
That beer he's drinking.
Yeah, I'm getting a little lightheaded.
Oh,
here,
that's
so-
what we need to do. All right, everybody, take a shot.
Here we go.
Woohoo.
All right. You can see the Tandy assembly.
Yep.
Yes.
Page. Yep. So I just wanted to quickly go through the exhibitors list. We have the exhibitors list up on page. So there, we got myself and my son are going to be exhibiting the homebrew TRS-80 and some other items.
Very cool.
Brendan Donahue's going to be there with Coco VGA. Jay Neworth, who's on the call, is going to be there with all of his accessories. Peter Bartlett and Malcolm Ramey, again, will be there for Bartlett Labs, and Malcolm always brings a bunch of 8-inch systems and exciting stuff. Eric is going to be there. What are you bringing, Eric?
I'm going to have the Japanese Model 1 and a System 80.
Awesome.
Very
Looking
cool.
forward to that Japanese Model 1. Mav is going to be there. Mav, what are you
I'll
going
be
to
there.
have?
Yep. I'm going to have all my usual stuff, which I can carry with me in luggage.
And some stuff from my basement
And oh, definitely. Yeah.
that I've been holding for 2 years. I've got a Coco for you down there. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I don't have a Coco for this. No, yeah, I do. I think it was that Coco one. The
It must have
white
been
one.
bought back in like 2020 or something.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Doesn't
sitting
work
there.
that well. Yeah.
Tim Halloran, who's on the call, I believe I saw him, is going to be there. Tim, you want to tell us quickly about your exhibit?
Sure. That I've been working with Vernon on multi-DOS for Fred, so hopefully we'll have that to show off. It is kind of ironic that that's what we're demoing, and the picture there shows LDOS booting. Vernon's probably not too happy about that if he's seen that. So I'll have to update the picture. That's also an interesting picture because, of course, the Model 1 is in pieces. That this is booting a Fred through an expansion interface to a Model 1 that's in pieces, which most of you probably know, but you probably don't recognize. See all the wiring up where the power section would be? This thing's actually running off. This one there is running off 12 volts DC. So I'm still working on that. So hopefully there'll be some progress, or I'll be able to explain why this is a terrible idea, one or the other, come Tandy assembly. Still poking around with DC powering a Model 1.
I love that picture because we all have, well, are you a TRS-80 enthusiast if you haven't got a Model 1 in pieces like that on at least one of your desks?
Yeah, there you go. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So Paul Burrell and Bobby Harden are going to be exhibiting together. Are either of you guys on the call?
I don't think so.
Okay. Jeff Burt is going to be there. He's going to be giving a tech talk as well on advanced troubleshooting for retro computers. Terry Steege, Retro Tech Time, will be there, and Joel Hilliard, who I think is on the call. Really exciting. Joel, are you on the call?
Don't think we saw Joel
Okay.
yet.
I see his name off to the side, but
Yeah, his name's up.
Well, we'll call him in a little bit, but he's going to be having a working Network 3 exhibit.
Wow.
Right.
ooh,
And he's inviting everyone to bring your Model 3 to connect to it. So
He's going to be
Don't
busy for the whole. He's going to be busy for the whole. The whole 2 days keeping that thing running. But
yeah, I think he demoed that a couple trash talks ago, right? He did it live on the
he
show.
did it
so-
work pretty well, actually. It was.
Yeah, he did it on Trash Talk.
All right. So Tandy Assembly, be there or be square.
There we go. Sorry, I had to check and looks like my mic is having issues. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, everyone's looking forward to your exhibit at Tandy Assembly, all the Model 3s. I hope they gave you a good rate on the amount of tables you're going to need.
So far, so good. And yeah, I fired it up the other day, and so far still working great. So hoping to keep it that way.
how many have you tried so far?
Systems, I hooked up 4 to the host, so 5 total.
Thanks.
And yeah, they all pull it. I did a 4 non-gate array, 4P, a 4 gate array, and then I think my 3. Yeah, so 3, 4 gate array, and 4P.
I may hold off from bringing one of my own, just saying.
Yep, all you need is a serial cable, and I'll provide you with a copy of the student software, unless you probably already have it in ROM. I bet half the machines, at least the Model 4s, will have it in ROM.
I don't think they make serial cables 13,000 miles long.
Oh, good call.
All right. I'll come back to you, Joel. We're just going around the table at the moment. Cool. Thanks for that, Pete. Let's see, Steve from the UK. How's your jet lag?
I'm not going to make it all the way through this. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, I
so
thought
thanks.
I'd put you on early because you said
Thank you very much.
you've been traveling and
Yeah, just back from Pete's neck of the woods. Just been 2 weeks out in New Jersey with we've got a technology campus out there, and I've got a big team out there. So kudos to them. They survived COVID, which was nice, and managed to pick up some eBay auctions as per Ian, which I got ages ago, just as COVID hit, and I never ever managed to go over and pick it up, which is
Oh,
The
yeah,
socks.
that's a good book.
well, it's actually the
the disc
discs that
set.
come with the book, yeah, and it's still sealed. So I thought that was pretty good. But the major thing that happened since last time I was on Trash Talk is some of you may have heard about the haul I picked up from South Wales in the UK. Aaron highlighted a posting that was on groups.io for the TRS-80 in relation to a guy who was going to dump a load of, pick it up now or I'm going to dump it. And it was a 16A, 16B, and a Genie 3 and a couple of Model 3s. So quite a haul. Big load of manuals, big load of software, including a lot of strange 8-inch stuff, including the source code for Tristos 2.0. for the Model 3. So there's a lot to go through. Since I've picked it up, the 16B is now working fully, booting from hard disk, original hard disk. And it's got, it actually boots Tristos 4.2, which Pete says is quite common, but I thought was a little bit odd for a system like that in the UK. The Genie 3 is now working, which it's very slow for the tube to light up, but it does come up, and I've had it booting NuDOS and GDOS. And it's believed to be so far the only Genie 3 in the UK. So if there's anybody listening who's actually got a Genie 3 that's functioning in the UK, do reach out to me, because it'll be good to have a chat in relation to some of its nuances, and also to see if we can get the screen firing up.
I was going to say the Genie 3, that was their last hurrah. They only made like a few hundred of those things, didn't they? Or
yeah, and I know there's a guy on Twitter called Binary Dinosaur who's got one, but he's missing the video section, which is pretty devastating, obviously. But this one's complete. It's working. The keyboard's working. Everything's working, and it's a little bit odd. So it's got 2 reset buttons, and if you hold both of them down, it literally shorts the machine out. The screen collapses to a point in the screen. Take them off the reset buttons, it all reboots. But it's the weirdest Model 1 clone I've ever seen in my life. But it's up and running, which is really, really cool.
That may be the only one in the world.
Yes.
It might be. So the gentleman picked it up from, I won't call his name out on here for obvious reasons, but really nice guy, long term Tandy aficionado, had a bucket load of Tandy stuff, and I will be going back for a second haul at some point once he's sorted it all out. But that will probably be 4Ps and hard disk drives, and probably more software, I would have thought, but lots to do. But really nice guy, big time Tandy National User Group. And Dusty, he reached out to you a couple of years ago, apparently, in relation to this kit. It was in one of one of your newsletters.
Oh,
so I'll let you look back, but I'll message you offline, mate.
Yeah, purely, I mean, my old stomping ground as always. Is there anything relating to Akilab floppy tapes there?
No, not so far.
No. All right, mate. Yeah, there was. I mean, you got a fabulous. I mean, the Genie 3. I mean, I never saw one in the day, so they must be very rare.
Yeah, the only thing it's missing is the little flap on the back, like you get on a 6000. There's one of those on the back of the Genie 3. It's missing that, but other than that, it's complete.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Oh, well done. Well done.
it's good, Steve. You're doing God's work. I'm picking up that stuff.
My wife doesn't think so. She has to walk through the hall, stepping over things at the moment. But we'll get that sorted.
Everyone's a critic, aren't they? But
yeah, absolutely.
What
I need is some shelving, like Joel's got on his background. That is just an epic amount of shelving I need in this room.
Yeah.
No, what you need to do is send a picture of Pete's basement, and then your wife will understand what you're not.
Yeah, look how bad I could be.
Feel free to use me.
True. Hey, Steve, is that a quick printer behind you?
Yeah.
What do you think of it? Apart from being
when I've got the balls to power the damn thing up, because it came with like severed leads and all of this sort of stuff. It's on the to-do list, Mav. So
okay,
but there's a lot on the to-do list, so we'll get to it at some point.
They are quick, but in every other sort of aspect, they're a little underwhelming. That's that's my assessment of the quick printer one. But it was the first ever Tandy device to come in white.
So one of the other things I picked up off the guy was a DMP 2100. I'm really looking forward to playing with that, because that's an epic printer. Yes, 24 pins at the time. The 24s just came out, so they were super expensive, and I wonder how Tandy felt, if it would impact on the, pardon the pun, sale of their daisy wheel printers.
Steve, you should have stopped by when you were in the area. I have a couple shelf load of printers I'd love to give you.
Well, get rid of.
Yeah.
I've got a garage full of a few.
Good on you, Steve. Thanks for making the time to join us.
Thanks for picking me up. Now, Mav, I need to speak to you about whether you've got any Type 2s left as well. Those sexy red ones you had.
Yeah, I can do those. Get
All right,
your
I'll-
people to
I'll
call
ping you
my
offline, mate.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Dusty. Hey, mate.
Hi, Mav. How's things? All right, mate. Hey, have you got a cold?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I am cold, but I don't have a cold. Yeah.
Oh, you sounded a bit nasal. That was all, mate. Yeah. I know these horrible things happen in winter, don't they? Just two very quickies to remind everybody about the Wordle comp. There's plenty of time, so don't lose heart if you're struggling. Yes. And secondly, I've been asked by one of my regular contributors, in level 2 basic, is it possible to stop level 2 clearing out all the variables when you delete a line within a program? And I said, I didn't know, but as this was happening tonight, I would ask the experts if anybody knows.
George should know the answer.
Oh, what expert?
I mean, it's something that's built into BASIC, so you'd have to write a machine language subroutine or something to do it, which would be possible. Certainly you could move memory down and relink the BASIC lines and relocate all your variables and stuff, but you wouldn't be able to do it in BASIC itself, I guess.
I just wondered if you could put it in reserved memory tucked away somewhere and poke it away.
So this is interesting. So this is something I've never encountered. Are you saying if you're running a program and
I don't think it's going to
What's
change.
hey, Sam, thanks for joining us. You're dropping out like no tomorrow. We'll come back to Sam. I am Dusty. Back with you, brother. Dusty.
Yeah, it was. So it was just if you have, say, for instance, line 10, $A equals ABCD. Line 20, print $A. Line 30, delete 10, and then line 40, print $A. $A disappeared, and all the variables disappear when you delete any line
From within a program.
Within a program, yeah. So
maybe that's a situation that the designers of level 2 basic never accounted for, that a program would want to delete its own line during execution.
Yeah. But I remember vaguely in the day somebody discussing this, and I think we decided it wasn't possible. But I thought, I just wonder if it is, and we just haven't got the knowledge at the time, or now come to that.
If anyone knows Bill Gates, we can try and get him on the next Trash Talk, and he can explain what's going on there.
Yeah.
He wrote the thing.
Get him to come
Well,
to PA.
I can't get Bill himself, but I can get Mike from the Windows to call us. I get a lot of those spam phone calls lately. But it comes down to, when you're talking to a tech guy, why would you want to do that? That's usually the question I get.
Yeah,
So
the ever-friendly tech guy.
that doesn't make sense why you'd want to delete a line of the program in the program while the program's executing, as far as
All right. With a reason, I'm only guessing now because I've not been told a reason, but knowing the person it's come from, he's a one-liner enthusiast. And what he wants to do is to build up some bits in memory and then delete it, so there's only one line left in the program, and then you can go to like whatever, just you don't type run, obviously, just type go to, and then off the program runs, and when you list it, there's just one line there. So theoretically it's a true one-liner, and that would meet the requirements of the fictitious one-liner rules. It's all got to be one line in a program, because you're limited to the 255 characters.
If anyone's going to work it out, your mate is. So let us know how he goes with that. It sounds well, so strange. It's got to be worth following up.
I could certainly write a basic program that when you run it and then list it, it only shows one line. I think that would be easy to do.
Yeah,
my
see,
Model 1 currently
modern
does
problems need modern solutions, don't they, George?
my Model 1 is currently doing stuff like that. It's not supposed to, but it is.
Cool. Thanks for that, Dusty. Let's move on to George Phillips, because Dusty mentioned Wordle, and if there's anyone who knows everything about Wordle here, it's George Phillips.
Yeah,
How you
that's
going,
right.
buddy?
It's good to remind everyone that the competition is still going on. Got a slight clarification to the rules, which I should point out, is that I noticed that when I talked about the subroutine to actually get a puzzle number, so you give it number 0, it gives you answer 0 and 1 and so on, that it should actually return the list in the same order as it is in the answers.txt. So when you ask for answer 0, it should return Tandy. When you ask for answer 1, it should return radio, all the way up to answer 2312, which I believe is dwarf. So you can't change the order of it. That's part of the difficulty of the problem. And the reason this came up is that we actually have an entry in the contest. Matt Boy-Tim sent me a Z80 program, which compresses a dictionary down to 28,111 bytes. So 10K over the sort of baseline. So it's pretty cool to see that. And I had fun testing it because I thought there's only about a little under 12 million 5-letter words. So I wrote a little Z80 program which called his subroutine 12 million times just to check that it gets the exact right answer, that it only says yes if a word is in the dictionary and no if it isn't. And so when I ran that, it ran for 250 trillion cycles, which if I work that out against a stock Model 3, I think that would take 4 years to run.
Wow.
I was going to say that's about the lifespan of a TRS-80, isn't it? About 4 trillion cycles.
Without turning off for a second, but I've got a standalone Z80 emulator that can run at 640 megahertz. So with that and multiple threads, it only took about a day or two to sort of crunch through it and verify it. And the other thing I wanted to do is show you guys a few of the features of the MC10 emulator that's in TRS-80 GP. A couple of them are unique, but share my screen here. But most of them are things that you can actually use with the other emulators with your Model 1, Model 3, Model 16. So I thought it's sort of useful to see how those things are used. One thing we have is, of course, the software keyboard, which lets you, type in keys manually to get key combinations that might not be possible with your PC keyboard. The main feature here, though, is that it's got these nice layout to it, and it kind of looks like an MC10 keyboard with its ability to type graphics characters on there. So that's how
That's
this
really
working.
nice, George.
Yeah. Yeah, I give credit to Peter for actually getting to work. So if I hit Shift and then hit the A key, I can, type in the graphics character as it's shown there. So that's cute. Let's see. The other thing is that this is also unique to the MC10 for the moment anyways, is it's got a ROM disassembly built into it. And so there's a new feature, symbol table, which shows you the symbols you have loaded from your source code, which you can do with Z80 programs and ZMAC. You'll see here that it's got all these various ROM symbols, up in the high area of ROM. If I bring up the debugger, I can go set a breakpoint at key in. If I enable this breakpoint, boom, it should stop instantly. And we see that it's stopped at F883, which must be the routine is. And then under debug source code, if I bring it up, we'll actually see the ROM disassembly that I found for it. So you see it's that key in here, and you can step through it and actually, look at the ROM source and help figure things out.
Step through ROM source. That's fully awesome, man.
It is.
Yeah, and this is one of the first features I put into the thing because it's extremely useful when you're working on the emulator to sort of nicely debug it and figure out, say, why things aren't working. So now I'll just disable that breakpoint, send it off again. The other thing is that it's got all the usual sort of programming features. So if you want to write a program in BASIC, there's a few different ways you can enter it. So if I open up this little program here, it's just going to poke characters onto the screen. So one thing you can do is you can just copy it and then right click, or through a menu, you can paste it in there and it gets typed in the emulator and say, this is something you can do on the Model 1 and Model 3 and so on. So I can run that program and it does what it does, poking characters on the screen. And then as usual, if you do an L list to the printer and then bring up the printer box, the program gets output to the printer output. So if you want to capture, changes you've actually made editing within the emulator, you can do it that way. or you could save it or something like that. This is obviously easier.
George, you're going to look to migrate these functions over to the other parts of the emulator?
So this ability to type in things quickly with pasting it and so on is already in the Model 1 and Model 3 and Model 16 and so on emulators. So you can do that already.
But the debugging?
The debugging, yeah. I need to put together a good ROM listing, basically, is all it amounts to. The debugging is just using the same sort of debugging features that you have if you use ZMAC and you produce a .bds file output. You can load that up and then be able to sort of source level debug. So it's a little more convenient. And so basically all it has is basically a listing of the ROM built into it. So yeah, it's something I can do for the Model 1, and I just need to get disassemblies put together.
Cool.
So yeah, so instead of, you can also just take the program and just the program is, it's just an ASCII file. You can drag it in onto the emulator and it will load it up and run it for you automatically. So if you want to, develop very quickly, you can edit outside the emulator, drop in your program, get it to run. Oops, do that. Focus problems. It's there for you to play with. And the same with tape images. You can load tape images in the normal way. That is, hook up a cassette tape image is, through the cassette menu and so on. Or instead, you can just take a file. So I've got an asteroids game here. I can just drag it in, poop, up it runs. And there's one more feature to show you, which is, I don't think well known, but it's fairly useful, is that under the record menu, there's the 6803 profile, which is the processor. So if I turn that on, what it's doing is it's keeping track of where the 6803 or the CPU is executing in memory. So then if I turn it off again, it's going to say, okay, I've made a note of that. I'm going to save this file. So there's this profile0.txt. If you open it up, it's pretty short in this case, but it's basically showing you everywhere that the processor went during that time interval. And then it's actually showing you the number of times it's executed each line and the number of cycles it used. And there's not too many here because the program is, just waiting for a key. So it's just some sort of, pull the keyboard kind of loop. But it's a good way to get an idea of what a program is doing, at a certain point, if you wanted to sort of peek into it without sort of doing a full disassembly. It lets you focus on, what actually happened. And it's also meant as a profiling tool, so that if you run your program and you run this profile, you can say, well, where's my program spending its time? And if we look at the listing here, we see, okay, well, this clear B only happened 51 times, but this jump to subroutine actually happened 13,000 times. So like these are the parts of your program that if your program is running slow, you need to worry about it. And then looking down here, we see, well, there's places, in fact, where that's, these lines have executed 100,000 times. So if you can make this part of the program faster, your program will be faster. And say that's a feature that's built into all of them. So you can use it on anything if you want to investigate it, except for the DT1. It doesn't have that. So you can't debug your DT1 terminal. Sorry about that.
Oh, darn.
So anyhow, little feature review of the emulator I thought might be interesting.
The beauty. You
More of
never-
God's work there.
Yeah. The never finished emulator. Just when we think we can't add more stuff to it.
Have you
There's
got
always-
Jim Gary using it yet, George? You got Jim
What's
Gary
it?
using it yet? Isn't that the famous MC10 game writer?
Oh yeah. No, I haven't got him using it. There are other good MC10 emulators. I mean, part of the TRS-80 GP mission is just simply that, oh, I can write an emulator for this machine and understand how it works. So that's a lot of fun. So that's fun for me. And then whatever, if people use it, that's good too.
Where's your brother today?
He said something about a barbecue, if you can believe that. But we
Oh,
have to make
what?
allowances.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, I'm sure we'll be back next time. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, George. Jay Newith. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how you
You owe me
doing?
$100.
I sent it to you.
Oh, you did?
I did. I sent it to you.
I'm hearing checks in the mail here.
As a fair warning to everybody, if you go on Facebook and you watch Ian's record of the day or month or whatever, I put a note into one of his emails and I said, I'll give you $100 if you got a Nat King Cole album. And within 24 hours, guess what he was showing? I think this guy's got every damn album that was ever made.
I've got
Yeah,
every good
it's-
album that was ever made.
Yeah, so anyway, I lived to my word and I sent you $100. I did.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you, Jay.
dangerous.
And I'm not
Making a
going to
bet
do it
like
ever.
that with
I'm not
you.
going to do it ever again because that's for sure. But, I'm doing all
yeah.
right. I had my new creation, the Fred sled, and I got 12 orders, and I can't fill them all because I just got 3 more boards in today from you, Ian, and I think I got 3 more coming. But I ran into a real bad issue with the sleds. John Wiggins is the guy who was making sleds for me because I don't have a 3D printer. And when I told him I needed 12 of them, he kind of like freaked out. And he said, well, why don't you go through Craft Cloud, which is a service that does it for you. So I said, okay. So I did. I put an order for 10 of them and they came in. All of them broke. So, I mean, you can take them and just literally pull them apart. So I got in touch with Craft Cloud and I sent them a couple samples, and they're working with me to get this guy to reprint them. And that's what's holding me back. I have no sleds. I ran out of sleds. But everybody who's gotten one, and Peter, you want one, right?
Yes.
Okay. I
So-
got you.
Tell me about, is Craft Cloud like a broker where somebody
yeah,
with a
they-
3D printer prints for?
They go out and they hire, they pick up people who want to do it. So it's not company. Some of my companies, the guy that did my sleds is a private guy he lives in Ottawa, he lives in Canada. And they're very good. They do respond. And when I put the complaint in, they're on top of it. They've followed up on it almost every week and told me what the guy's doing, what he's not doing. And so he's going to reprint all the sleds, and then he's going to actually print 4 more from me for all the inconvenience and all that. So I'm still waiting for them to come in. And it's fairly expensive, but not really. I mean, considering that it's being done by somebody else. So I may have to invest into a 3D printer of my own and see if I can do it. But
Jay,
I did
Jay,
that.
why not engage with a professional 3D printing firm? Is it just the cost? Is that
I
the
think it's the cost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive to have a professional service do it. Even like PCB Way, they not only circuit boards, but they do 3D printing.
Right.
When I was looking to get the case done for the Talker 80 board, I had the STL file, sent it to them. It was going to be about $200 by the time it was done. I said, no, I don't think I want to do that. I can buy a whole 3D printer for about $280 from Amazon. So
Yeah.
I weighed the cost. I did it. I bought an Ender 3 V2, and I've been printing stuff left and right lately. It's
Yeah,
film
Just never
Not
got
that
it.
bad.
I never got into it, but
Does it make your house smell like a plastics factory, Paul?
Not if you use
Not re-
PLA filament. If you
Right.
use ABS, it can.
Okay.
Right.
I haven't experimented with ABS yet, so
Just
ABS
make
is
sure
also more expensive than PLA.
Yeah, just make sure you have some kind of a case or an enclosure, because that'll help regulate the temperature on ABS also.
Well, it's contrary to popular local opinion here. It's sitting in my living room at the moment. when I'm using it. But we're in a small apartment that will be. We're actually going to be moving to a different place in a couple of months. Kind of have to, unfortunately, due to the landlord situation. But it'll get its dedicated spot in the garage when we get there. So, but
Another thing about Craft Cloud that I like is when you go and put your order in and you put the number of whatever you want printed, it comes up with a humongous list of all kinds of prices, because it depends on what your production time you want, what kind of pricing you want, material you want to use. I mean, you have tons and tons of things to pick from, and I think there's like about 30 of them that I had to choose from, and I just wanted the ones that was the nicest but the quickest. And unfortunately, it turned out not to be the nicest, but
It's a pretty sizable device, hooga jooga, isn't it, Jay? How long do they take to print?
Well, that's just it. If John, when John was printing it from me, he says one sled took 12 and a half hours.
Yeah,
all right.
So which is
There's a bit of
about
time
right.
involved.
So
Yeah.
I don't know what these guys are doing. I don't know if they're using industrial type printers or if they're just doing it like Joe Schmo does, or like Pete might, not Pete, Paul might be doing, you know. But so the first batch took about 2.5 weeks to come in. So, but it you know, I got another. I like I say, when these come in, I'll see if it's worth it. If not, then I'm just going to invest into a 3D printer, and then I can print them as I need them.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Oh, also at the Tandy Assembly, I'm going to have a second table, and I'm going to be bringing the computers, the Color Computer 3 and the Model 4 and a couple other things, and a whole bunch of books that Barbara Bright, you know, that I went up to from her brother Cliff, who passed away from prostate cancer. I'll have that there, and I don't know what's going to happen. I guess I'm going to auction it separate from the Tandy Assembly, because this was her stuff or his stuff. And I'm just trying to get her some money back for it. So it'll be there. And I don't, you know, maybe if anybody just wants to take it off the shelf, take it and buy it. I don't know. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but that'll be there. And then the final thing I'd have is that the power supplies have kind of stopped. I haven't sold one in now over a month and a half. So I guess it must be a flood of them out there, and people are just not interested right now, maybe because of prices, other things, but I don't know. But it's kind of slowed down. But
this is the retro computing. This is the retro computing business, Jay. It ebbs and flows. Just when you think you've tapped out the market, you'll get another 10 orders.
I'm sure. I know.
Majority of my machines are running those power supplies, Jay. So
I know
I'll probably got a couple more to do. So
all right, well, I've still got them in stock. I'm not giving up. Don't worry, I'm not giving up.
I'm still testing that last one on using it inside the hard drive as well. I think
supposedly it should work.
I think there's one I got to snip. There's like I think I have to snip the cable inside of the hard drive because it bridges the two 12 volts together. And I don't think both of those will work together on the same line. I might get 24 volts.
All right, because I'll take one of my hard drive units apart and look at the supply, because supposedly it's the same one that they put in the Model 4s.
Yep. But I think in the Model 4s, your 12 volt came from the same source, right? Came from the same transformer.
Yeah. No, well, mine?
No, the originals, the original power supplies.
You mean from Radio Shack itself?
Yeah, so like V2 and V3 would be together.
Would know the answer to that, wouldn't you?
Yes, it's all the
12 original power supplies. Didn't they? They didn't isolate the 12 volt, did they?
No, they didn't. They didn't care if the screen shrunk a tiny bit. That was just part of the charm of the computer, I think.
Yeah, and I think I just have to modify my cable inside the hard drive. You just have to
All right, well,
probably just undo it and just set it to the side or tape it up or
All right.
something. But I think it should work just fine.
I'll go into one of my hard drive units and look at and see if it's an exact replica. It should work as far as I can tell.
Why don't you bring a 3D printer and a laptop to the Tandy assembly, Jay, and start at printing something that takes 12 hours, and the first person who can guess what it is
Hi,
wins.
Paul. Hi, Paul. How you doing? Hint, 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 hint. No, that's a good idea. It'd be a good idea.
I'm an ideas person. They will know
Yeah.
that.
But
Most
you're
of
not
it
going
was
to get no more
stupid, but-
$100 from me, that's for sure. The hell with that. 'Cause the next album, if I go to do it again, it's going to be out. I know you're going to have it.
That'll teach you, Jay. Good on you, mate.
So that's about it from me.
Okay,
Nice
cool.
to see everybody. Nice to see Blair.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, actually, let's move on to Blair. How you going? It's been a while since I've seen you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've gotten very busy with work because we're short staffed, and but today, Saturday, I was available, so I'm glad to be here.
Still
What'd you
working
get-
at the
what you been up
casinos?
to?
Well, I've got a little something that may be of interest to the Z80 assembly language programmers. I've been corresponding with somebody that I'm kind of assisting with some basic fundamental Z80 routines for doing things like converting, binary numbers to hexadecimal or decimal ASCII and back for input and output. And let me see if I can share the screen here and show what I've got. Okay, did that show up?
Yes.
All right.
I can see it.
Okay. This is some cool code that will convert a number that is in the accumulator in binary into ASCII hexadecimal. The top four lines of code come from Lance Leventhal's book Z80 Assembly Language Programming, and it uses the DAA, the decimal adjust accumulator feature of the Z80 in a very, very clever way. So in analyzing how this little code snippet worked, I came up with my own as an alternate that was a little easier to understand that I put down below. Of course, the Lance Leventhal one is more efficient because since it uses two DAA opcodes, those only take 4 T states. And mine uses only one DAA and uses 2 adds and then add with carry, which takes 7 T states. But it's just a little easier to follow. It's very clever. It works because what the decimal adjust accumulator opcode does is if you have a value between 0 and 9, which of course would be in binary, it doesn't change anything as long as the flags are set appropriately, which they will be in this case because of that OR opcode at the top. But if the value is between 10 to 15 or 0A hex to 0F hex, it adds 6 to it, which is almost what you need in order to get the proper ASCII byte to display. The difference between the 9 in ASCII, which is 3-9 hex, and the A in ASCII, which is 4-1 hex, is 7. But you see that it's part of what is so clever about it is in the case that you need to jump to that alphabetic character to display the hexadecimal number, the carry flag is set. So by adding 4-0 hex plus the carry, you're adding 4-1 hex, and there you go. You've got your A through F ASCII. Very, very clever. I never in a million years would have thought of this, but it's just an interesting little thing to see. Anyway, so this fellow that I've been corresponding with I showed him this code, and he started asking me about the decimal adjust accumulator opcode in general, like what it does and how it's used. So I put together a little program. And again, maybe this is of some interest to the Z80 assembly language programmers. Let me see if I can. First of all, let me see. This is the description of the opcode from the Z80 user manual. And the description is just, I mean, this is an accurate description of what it does, kind of on a, almost more on a coding or an engineering level. You know, this is probably what they had to break down when they were designing the Z80. But it's very hard to follow this, and it makes it look way more complex than it really is in terms of an explanation. So I wrote this little program that allows you to enter in 2 binary coded decimal numbers and add them up and subtract them, and it displays what the we'll give an example here. What the sum and the difference look like initially, and then after the decimal adjust accumulator opcode is executed, what it looks like afterwards. So you know, I thought this was a little bit illuminating, and this is not an emulation. This is I'm actually you know, using the Z80 to add and subtract these 2 numbers and actually executing the DAA opcode. So this is coming straight from the processor, or in this case, it's coming from the emulator that I'm running here. I'm running TRS-80 GP, of course. So in this particular example, you can see that when you add up the numbers 97 and 68, even though we're trying to represent them as binary coded decimal, of course, the initial addition is just a binary addition. So it's like adding a 9-7 hex to a 6-8 hex, yielding an FF hex. And then after executing the DAA, it adjusts it appropriately to the number 165. 97 plus 68 is 165 in binary coded decimal. And I show the values of the flags, because that also affects how the DAA opcode works. If it, you know, in the case of like an FF hex, if there's a value between A and F hex, as I stated before, DAA always adds 6 to it, but it will also add 6 to it if it'll add 6 to the lower nibble if the half carry flag is set, and the upper nibble if the carry flag is set. So just as an example, let's take adding it to a larger number. Okay, so here you can see by adding 1 more, it rolls over to just 00 hex. But since both of the flags are set, it added the appropriate number and gave us the correct answer of 166 in binary coded decimal. So again, you know, this is just, you know, it gives a little bit of a kind of a working example of how the DAA opcode works, which seems to be of confusion to a lot of people. I guess it's not something that a lot of Z80 programmers generally use, and it wasn't used at all by Microsoft when they wrote their level 2 ROM. They used their Microsoft binary format exclusively in order to do the calculations with all of their numbers. Binary coded decimal has certain advantages and certain disadvantages. My understanding is the background from Zilog was that you know, even back in the 70s when they first developed the chip, they intended it to be applicable for embedded applications. And binary coded decimal has very direct application and usefulness when it comes to displaying digits on an LED display. So on a calculator or on some type of, like maybe a clock, an LED clock or something else where there's an LED display. BCD is very useful, and it is actually useful and important in certain arithmetic calculations where you need to have a very high degree of accuracy. When you convert from binary to decimal and back, there's a slight loss of precision because of differences between the two numbering systems. And when you represent the decimal directly, you can maintain a very high level of accuracy. Of course, coding it for multiple digits, requires, more complex programming, but you do maintain a very high level of accuracy. So something, if you're writing financial software or you're writing scientific software, at an assembly language level, binary coded decimal may be of more utility. Anyways, that was just a little program that I threw together and I thought might be of interest to assembly language programmers.
Nice
If
work,
anybody
Blair.
has any questions or comments.
The binary coded decimal is essentially where you have 4 bits representing each decimal digit, right?
Yeah, well, actually, there's 2 common ways of, and I'm sorry, I'm having trouble finding the, here it is. I was having trouble finding the stop share on my screen. It wasn't where I thought it was going to be. Yeah, there are 2 primary ways of generally representing binary coded decimal. There's the packed binary coded decimal, which is what you just described, Pete, where you have 1 byte representing 2 digits, and then there's unpacked, where you just put a digit only in 1 byte. And of course, it's less memory efficient, but it's a little easier to code for. The most memory efficient way is the packed way, and that is how binary coded decimal is handled on the Z80, as it was from the 8080, and that was taken, I guess, originally from IBM's design, from their System 360, where they implemented packed binary coded decimal, and was just kind of followed by other manufacturers.
That's fascinating. I didn't know the Z80 supported binary coded decimal like natively, and wasn't even aware of the DAA opcode. So cool.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it's very efficient, even though it's a complex instruction that does a lot of things internally. It only takes 4 key states. It's the fastest that an instruction can be on a Z80, and the designers of the Z80 deeply integrated their DAA instruction into the processor so that it would be very efficient, because to them it was that important that binary coded decimal be supported and be very fast for embedded applications.
Cool.
That's great.
And if you dig around in the Z80 instruction set, you'll also find there's the RLD and RRD instructions, which actually basically do a nibble-wise rotate. And I think they're also intended to support binary coded decimal. And
yes, George, that is precisely correct. Those are there to support binary coded decimal and to make it easier to code for, as I was stating earlier, when you have multiple digit long arguments that you need to process, and the RLD and RRD are there to assist in that. Yep, that's precisely correct.
Fantastic. Nice work, Blair. Be good to see you at Tandy Assembly. You coming this year?
Yeah, I'm intending to go as long as I can work it out with my work schedule, but I certainly intend to be there. I have not been able to make reservations yet because I'm just not 100% sure, but I do want to see you all there. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be disappointed if I can't go.
Yeah,
cool.
us too.
We look forward to it too.
Yep.
Tim Harrell on.
Thanks.
Hey, buddy.
Doing well. I'm on vacation, so I'm actually in Cape Cod, which is about 13 hours from where I usually am. But let's see, catch everybody up. First of all, big thanks to Mav. He sent me a bunch of parts to get my Fred, which had Vernon's burned out chips in it from whenever Vernon's got a hook up to power inside a machine, it could go badly. So We fried a few chips, but what we did was I got his Fred to my house, and I literally went chip by chip with a working Fred, and we figured out what was busted, and Mav replaced the chips, so that was super nice. And we'll keep going and testing. He seems to be making some progress with multi-DOS. I'm disappointed he isn't here. He did have a Model 1 test that I played around with, and I ended up having George play around with it, but it looks like the boot disk we had, because we're still in sort of floppy boot mode, wasn't functioning. So he's still poking around with it. And I'm super hopeful that they'll be kind of be able to demo that at Tandy Assembly and show some working Fred floppy boot and hopefully auto boots for multi-DOS on the Model 1, 3, and 4, which is kind of what he's working on.
So Vernon is a software guy.
Oh yeah,
he's not a hardware guy.
Well, he's not on because he probably fried his computer.
Yeah, he's super talented with the software. He's scary good with the assembly language. He also assumes a tremendous amount of knowledge of esoteric knowledge, which I probably am not well qualified to have. So he has to educate me at times about how it worked back in the day, so to speak. But he's brilliant and doing a great job. I'm very excited to see this make progress, and more than happy to help him out where I can in little things like wiring up a Fred power supply and things like that. I've been working on my space a little bit. I sort of got my room reorganized, so that's been taking up some time, and got a little bit distracted. Did some retro brighting, which we don't do very much, but I had was restoring an old Apple IIe Platinum and a VT100 terminal from Digital that desperately needed retro brighting. They looked like cheddar cheese, and played around with that. That went pretty well. So getting back to it, just sort of working on my projects, and also been a little bit distracted because the Wordle thing is pretty interesting. That's a great problem. I'm struggling a bit. My first approach, I'm kind of still in the design doc mode with this, because I one of the major challenges with this is that if you make the data representation too compact, then your Z80 code is going to explode. So it's kind of like a balance of like, how big is your code versus how big is your data. So it's going to be a fun one, but working a little bit on that. Hopefully I'll get an entry together and get something running. So, but it's a great project. Whoever dreamed that up, if it was George, excellent.
Could only come from the mind of George.
Yeah, and another thank you to George. George mentioned this, but I don't know how many people have tried it. The Fred support in TRS-80 GP has gotten a whole lot better, including like supporting the auto boot menu and things like that. And I've been using that a lot. So big thanks, George, for that work. That's really great stuff.
Hey, Tim, did the last one I send you for the Model 1 arrive yet, or is it still in transit?
It arrived in country. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm guessing when I get back to Pittsburgh, it's going to be there. Usually when they arrive in country, it only takes a week or so. So I should be good to go. And hopefully I'll have a working Model 1 Fred, so I'll have a parallel of Vernon's setup to try that. I wish he had gone from 4 to Model 3, because I have like easily Model 3 Freds going. The Model 1's been tougher, but I've got a good setup, and once your second packages arrives, the Fred will be good. And then I just have to make an auto boot ROM and plug it into the Model 1. That's one of my projects.
Easy for you. It'll be good to see multi-DOS running on the Fred for years. I think that the running joke ever since the Fred came out is that everyone's favorite DOS was new DOS. So what does Mav and Fred do when they're designing the Fred? Build it around LDOS. I have no regrets at all. I love LDOS, but so many people are sort of like, but new DOS is so much better, and I'm like, well. I just want to be able to set a hard drive up quickly and easily, so that's why I lean towards LDOS and LS-DOS. Another thing I wanted to mention, I got an email via IRA about a gentleman who had no power supply for his Model 1 and wanted to run it off two wall warts, one supplying the AC and one supplying the DC. That works, doesn't it? I think it does work. It's bought,
think so.
but it
As long as
works.
yeah, I would think it would work. I would
Yeah.
just that should function properly if he runs it into the DIN properly. Although be safe. Make sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
double triple checking with the multimeter that was correct before
I think I hope I got this right. The last sentence in the email I sent him was Tim Halloran's done a lot of work with USB power supplies on Model 1s. Reach out to him. So
yeah, and if you did that, I would pop the machine open and check the 5-volt, 12-volt on the regulator, adjust the pots inside the machine to make sure it's like on, didn't go wonky because it's not a Radio Shack power supply.
How's the USB power supply going?
Pretty well. I've struggled a bit. This is nowhere near as easy as the Coco. I think the issue is, and I haven't completely figured it all out yet, is I'm pretty sure, and of course I kick myself because 3 years ago I spent 5 hours talking to Paul Schreiber, who was there when they came up with this. But I didn't know to ask this question. I almost am starting to think that some of the noise that comes out of the Model 1 power supply is actually expected to be there to make the video circuit work properly. So if you remove it and clean up the power too much, then you actually get video artifacts that you don't expect. But I'm still digging into this and testing it out with various things to try and figure out what it actually expects. But it's a bit tricky because you only have so many Model 1s and you need a couple of them to try these things because you're always worried, is it just this Model 1?
Just this one,
problem? Or is it a general problem? So it's a work in progress. We'll see if we can make some.
So you're saying the general craptasticness of the original Model 1 power supply is part of the key of the success of the system?
Yeah, it looks like I'll try to get some things up. I should probably do a article about where this is at for the TRS-80 book for Dusty's newsletter, even though it doesn't work, just to kind of explain where this is at. But there is noise out of the 5-volt line, which is really what's going into the 5-volt lines, what's really going into the video circuitry. And it's almost as if, to me, that when you take that noise away, you start to get jitter on the screen, it just kind of moves just a little bit, but you could definitely notice it more than you could on a normal Model 1. And through trying to clean it up in various ways, I'll have to once I figure out a little bit farther, I'll have to get some real double E's to take a look at the problem and advise, because definitely I'm a software guy mostly, so this is maybe get a little bit above my head.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, actually, Tim, about the power being too clean. Because I remember back in the day, one of the biggest work-induced problems we had was the unreliability of the United Kingdom's 240-volt power supply. It was forever just dropping down 15, 20 volts. Just enough to trip off a Model 1, as per we expect. But I remember that you'd probably three, 4, 5 times in a workday, you'd have that, and it was really a nuisance, as you can imagine.
We used to use the Model 1 to code Spectrum games back in the day for Spectrum Games, which later became Ocean. And we coded a game on my friend's mum's kitchen table for a week. And every time our fridge kicked in, the system died. Yeah. The amount of code we lost with that damn fridge, I will never ever forget.
Yeah, if it gets a few volts below it, it kicks out. Definitely but the system works. You can either swap out the memory for 5-volt. The computing part of it works just fine under DC power. You can either get a 5-volt line and push it up to 12 volts with a little, boost converter, and that will work the original memory. Or you can just swap out the original memory with something that's only 5 volts, and that works fine. But the video circuit has been the struggle with this. So we'll see. It's still also a little bit of major surgery on the the motherboard. So that might be why kind of writing this down a little bit so other people take a look at it. They might come up with better ideas. One of the things I like though is I still use the DIN for power, and I use the empty pins on it. So that if you plug in a original power supply to this computer, it doesn't hurt anything. And hopefully if you plug in a DC to this, the real regular one, it would also not hurt the regular one, because that was one of the desired, because I guarantee I would have already fried a system using that if I didn't take that safety precaution. Anyway, that's
Okay,
all.
thanks, Tim. Good on you, mate. Joel Hilliard. Hey, buddy. What's up?
Hey, not too
You
much.
need more computers there. You haven't got enough in that room.
Actually need to change these shelves out because I did some reading, and yeah, they're overloaded big time. I find little stress points every now and then when I pull something off to look at it or fix it or whatever. I'll find like things that are kind of bent up, and I'm like, that's not normal. But all right. Also, yeah, the bars ruin feet. I need more feet now. I mean, the feet on the TRS-80s are awesome. They're nice, hard plastic, but really tough stuff. They don't really move, but like Commodores, the Apples, anything with those nice big squishy squares are like on the 6000 keyboard on the bottom or whatever. Yeah, they come right off. The thing will just shave them right off the bottom of anything you try to put on there if it has any weight. So I got to work on.
You're almost entombed in there now, Joe. Like
I love it.
So many.
I love
it's
it.
like a pharaoh.
He can't get out. He's stuck there.
Almost. When family comes over and I have a TV, like an actual TV on a rolling cart that I keep for like Nintendo and the fun stuff that I don't like on a flat screen. And yeah, I got to roll that in here and other stuff when the family comes over, and then it's impossible to get in here. I'm just like, hey, go up there. No, wait, never mind. I'll be right back. I'll go get it. But yeah, it's getting there. Yeah. need new shelves for sure. I need to go with those industrial, those ones that lock in place with the pins and whatnot. These are only rated for, I think it was like 100 pounds, like per tier or something like that. Like 600, they're 600 pounds total weight on them, and I really don't even like getting that close. And they're on their wheels, those casters that they sell.
Oh yeah.
What do you call it? So I can move them. I've already bent this one over here. I've already had to. I don't even think I got to take them off yet. It's already bending the caster, like it's buckling under the weight. So it's trying to pull that down. But yeah.
Well, if you're gonna die, that's the way to die.
Right. I wonder how many days I can get before I'm working. My office is just downstairs, and so I'm wondering how many days we're all sitting there working, and just all of a sudden, be real funny if it happened live on the thing. All of a sudden, I just go black, and you guys don't see me. I don't know what happened.
Is your area subject to earthquakes, Joel?
No, not that I'm aware of. Thankfully, if they are, they're not detectable, I guess. So
we'll find out sooner or later.
Yep. I definitely wanted to do the safety strap things, but that's when I went and looked at the shelves and asked about looking at what their main weight was. And I was like, well, screw that. I just got to replace the shelves. So.
We have tremors around here about one every 3 years, but they're not on the scale of Japan style earthquakes, which is sort of. And I sort of went, okay, I've got some amateur radio gear right up at the highest point. that'll take me out. But
I've honestly never experienced an earthquake in my life. So wow, yeah, that's something I don't want to experience, but it's just stuff I can't fathom what it's like to have the entire world underneath you shake.
The tremors are amusing. I think earthquakes proper are pretty horrendous. So yeah, best to better appreciated watching on security camera video than being there in person for a bona fide earthquake. So, yeah.
I was in California when they had one, and let me tell you, it's just nothing you can do. It's Mother Nature, and you're just sitting there and you're scared. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? It's a very frightening experience.
Dang.
Yeah.
But yeah, not too much going on. Just playing on the 2000, doing more drawings and stuff. Takes a lot of time. And then, of course, that contact issue with the 96 pin Euro connector where the card cage sets in. It makes for a fun night when you spent 3 hours working on an image and it goes.
Mm.
But it's working. It's fun. I still love it. It's still awesome. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about the 2000 color graphics, but it looks really cool, especially when you stick them all together and composite into a giant image. It looks really cool.
You're gonna demo
Joe.
that at Tandy Assembly?
Yep, I hope to. Yeah, I think I got a little AOC display. If I can find a little table mount that I could just clip it to the table and then just have it right above the computer back behind it so that it can show them in their, full high res display pictures. But yeah, that's the goal.
There was
there was a-
something
there
else.
was a-
The Tandy 2000s graphics. They really pulled out all stops at that time to try and
Pretty
make
cool.
them the best graphical machine for a short period of time that it was around. So and they knew how to charge you for it. If you ever saw how much a CM1 monitor was back new, buy a
Yep.
small car for about half the price.
Definitely pushed it past IBM's what do you call it?
CGA.
Well, yeah, when you look at their comparison, it's like, oh no, the 2000 is great. Oh, did you want the CM1?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I say, if you ever get a chance, put an IBM 5150 or even a IBM AT next to a Tandy 2000 and then run Microsoft Flight Simulator on both, and the Tandy wipes the floor with them. So
Really? So
it
I can do
does.
that. I have the flight simulator. I have both the AT and the 5160. So that would be an interesting, fun thing to do. I'm gonna pull out a
Yeah.
table.
Yeah,
Another table.
the PCXT, it's going to get along at something like, I don't know, 4 frames a
4.77?
second or
Yeah,
4
that's
frames
terrible.
a second, whereas the Tandy 2000 one's almost playable and has 3 times as much color. So
Yeah, it's really cool. I didn't realize it in the instructions when I finally got a copy of the flight simulator game, the manual and box. It says you flip between, you're supposed to, as you're playing the game, depending on what you're doing. So if you're flying, you want to look around and look pretty, hit F4, goes into full detail mode with full color. And then if you're landing, taking off, or doing some kind of like maneuvers where it needs to be fast and responsive, you flick down to F1 or F2, zaps the color and zaps all the detail, but gives you faster, more responsive control of the flight simulator. So it's pretty interesting.
vintage flight simulators of the PC era, at least, are quite interesting in that the computers didn't quite have the performance needed to be a real good simulation. So they had little hacks like this: take away the detail, give some of the MIPS back to other aspects of the thing to make it more realistic. But yeah, cool, Joel. Can't wait to see your setup at Tandy Assembly. It's going to be long cables, lots of them.
For
Well, I
sure.
think I heard Joel say he's going to give us a demo for the next Tandy Talk Live. I think I heard him say that.
Yeah.
You guys know there's a 747 simulator for the Model 2, right?
What? Huh?
Wow. Okay.
If it's
You
not in
need
the
all
Model
that
2
4
archive,
megahertz power.
yeah,
Yeah.
hit me up. The graphics are.
Oh, cool. Are you
There,
going to
but-
run a demo of it next Trash Talk Live?
I should.
Peter?
Yeah.
Good. Make it
That
so,
would be cool.
young man. Okay. Jeff C. How you going, brother?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for calling on me. I haven't made it to one of these in a little while. I haven't been doing too much. My main retro activity was making plans and reservations to go to Vintage Computer Festival West in early August. Out here, I'm in California because Tandy Assembly is not gonna happen for me this year. And I was really curious about that the homebrew TRS-80 that Peter mentioned. Is that like a fully home-built PC board and everything TRS-80, or is that sort of a disassembled TRS-80 in a different box?
So
That's just the latter one.
Yeah, it's a box that includes a TRS-80 motherboard, an MDX2 expansion interface, power supplies, all wrapped up in the one box.
Oh, okay, cool. It looks pretty neat.
It is neat.
And I like that. It looks like it has a few more displays and knobs and buttons and fun things on it. But
Yeah, it's got a blinking lights panel and
yeah,
bunch of
yeah,
switches and knobs. Yeah.
It makes
It
it more
looks
retro.
anything but portable, like it would pull my arm out of its
It's
socket.
the handle. Yeah. The handle is more aspirational. Anyway, thanks. That's all I got. Don't want to take up too much time.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. Make sure it'll be good to see you next time as well.
Yeah.
All right. Craig Skeels. Craig.
All right. Yeah, I haven't really done much of anything. My retro activities were around the Amiga VA 500 came out and finally got ours here in the US. So I played, lost some battle chess and, reminisced a little about that little era. And
That's cool. Hey, what software package are you messing around with on your Model 1 there? Is that Model 1, is that Level 1 Games pack sitting on your Model 1 there?
there was that Facebook post about converting.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I was in that Facebook post. Yeah, I knew what I was talking about. Just no one else knew what I was talking about.
Yeah. So I dug it up. Mine has some water damage, unfortunately. But yeah, I wanted to kind of take a look at it. It's got all the listings printed out, but I definitely don't want to type them up. But, I might check out, whether I can load those tapes still or if they're destroyed. And
As long as the felt pads are still in place on the tapes, you should be right.
Yeah. It's
Check the felt pads.
Once I virtualize them. I had a bunch of loose ones that I converted last year, and I've got all the stuff to do it if I plug it back in, but I neglected to look for things like the Level 1 Games pack. And so maybe it'll work.
It must be popular. A lot of people must have bought that as their first software package. I don't know much about it because I started off with Level 2 and disk drives. Don't hate me. But there's clearly a lot of people started out with Level 1 and the Level 1 Games pack, and they have a lot of nostalgia for the games on there. My experience with them is they're, for want of a better word, a bit of a yawn, but
for its time,
it's all history, and for a lot of people, it's probably their first experience with those machines. So yeah, you going to make it to Tandy Assembly, Craig?
I've never made it. I don't think I'll make it this year, but it is a goal. Maybe when I retire in a few years.
Maybe when I retire as well. But anyway, it'll be live streamed, won't it, Peter? It's going to be live streamed, so anyone who can't make it can watch the feed. Yep. Be good.
Great. I'll be looking
to
for
get
the
your
live
feedback.
stream.
Yeah, watch the live stream. You can actually watch it in real time. When I want to watch the live stream, I've got to stay up all night. So love that. Okay. Good on you, Craig. Have a good one. Eddie. Hey, mate.
Hey, hello, everyone. How's my audio? Is this okay?
Yes. Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I guess I'll stay kind of like on the radio. They say, but long time listener, first time caller. Is that what we say here? So
Yeah.
I'm in Texas. I have the wonderful joy of being about 15 minutes from Joel and about 20 minutes from Eric. So I'm sitting right between the two. So if I have a 2000 question, I head Joel's way. If I have a TRS-80 question, I head towards Eric. And they both seem to hide from me quite a bit, though. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
And if you need to repaint a computer, you're probably not long a drive from Patrick Bureau.
Yes, actually, yeah, he's just down the road a ways. I actually just got the floppy 80 from Patrick a couple weeks ago and got that in a Model 3, and that's working okay for me as well. But just quick, like I say, this is the first time I've been on the actual talk. I've been watching on YouTube for a year or so, I guess. But I worked for Radio Shack back in the 80s, managed a retail store, a franchise in South Carolina, and did that for a few years, and kind of stepped away from the computer side and just got into business technology and using computers instead of selling computers. And that all changed probably 3 or 4 years ago here in the Dallas area with folks like Joel and Eric and some of the retro group here in Dallas. And so I kind of jumped back into collecting. And Joel's collection there is, I think Joel and I were having a race for a while to see who was going to get what. And he's won that race. But I have quite a bit. Either in the room here or in storage. And so I'm trying to get from the point from collecting to actually using and restoring and repairing and so forth. So like I said, I'm doing some of the upgrades. I did get a Fred from you, Mav, probably a year or two ago, and just trying to actually start using some of the systems and learning more about them. So that's kind of where I am. I'm working on a few projects here and there. I just picked up a Dragon 32 just because I didn't have one, and I thought it would be kind of cool to put that next to a Coco and see what's going on there. So I had to go through the transition from PAL to NTSC, and I picked up a Coco SDC that works fine in it when you have the right card for that and so forth. But yeah, just wanting to get more involved here. And the good news in talking to Pete and others, I think Eric finally pushed me to the sign-up line, but I will be at Tandy Assembly this year. And I've been trying to get there for a number of years. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Be good to finally meet you.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys could rent a bus.
Possibly.
The Magic Reefer smoke bus.
Yeah, that's it.
You mean you can't all fit in the Pete's camper?
Possibly. The way I'm getting there is I told my wife, October timeframe would be a good time to go up through that area, Ohio and Pennsylvania and so forth. So we're actually making a vacation out of it. And then I informed her the first weekend would be in Springfield. And so we're all good. We're all good. But yeah, we're going to make
that works out perfect.
Yeah.
As far as collecting goes, do you reckon, did you make it to computer reset and they pretty much tapped out of TRS-80?
Yes. Yeah. I would venture to say that I've ended up with a lot, if not most, of the TRS-80 gear that came out of reset. What I don't have is sitting behind Joel's left shoulder there, I guess. We were going, again, Joel and I would show up and open our trunks and just load up everything. I don't know if I can move too much here, but at least a few of those 2000s came out of reset. And probably, I think I've got 3 Model 3s that came out of there, a 4P or 2, a lot of the older TRS-80 stuff. Tandy wise, there were just a few of the, like Intel based machines that came out of there, but it seemed that Richard, the owner, he again, as you guys have seen the computer reset story unfold over the past couple of years, he acquired everything. I'm not sure if he actually had an end goal for anything at that point, but as of probably 2 weeks ago, the warehouse is completely empty down to the floor. Which is a miracle. It took about 3 years to get to that point, but Joel and I and Eric and a few other locals we would show up there as much as possible over the past couple of 3 years, and it's just amazing how that place unfolded, and it is now empty. And Noelle, the owner's daughter, she's got it on the market. So it went from 38,000 square feet of everything down to a concrete building.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Quite amazing.
I always thought it was interesting. I knew being in Texas, there's got to be a lot of Tandy TRS-80 stuff there. Yet the early videos that came out in the first months after the whole computer reset thing blew up 3 years ago, people walking around with videos that you see very little Tandy stuff there, and I'm like, it must be hidden or in stillages and pallets and things. It's got to be there, just not readily visible on the people's videos who are walking through the factory and mezzanine area and all that sort of thing.
And that's true. There were there were a couple of places it seemed that the owner had, at least he had some idea of what he wanted to happen there. We would find a cache of TRS-80 items, a Model 3 sitting on top of a 4P or whatever. And Eric, if you recall, that was upstairs. I can't remember what they called that section up there, but there were several of that era systems that came out of there. A couple Model 1s, a K-Pro. Joel, I think you found something up there that was kind of special. I can't recall now what it was, but there were piles of. I know one of my first times there before LGR, who did the big YouTube video that got everyone kind of involved.
That's the one.
Yeah, but prior to that, I remember walking in and pushing a door, and the door would not open because there was a stack of Apple IIs behind the door. Probably at least half a dozen, just 2s, 2Es, just 2 pluses, of course, not 2s, but 2 pluses.
That's what they're good for.
Yes, holding the door shut in that instance. But it just everything you could imagine was in there. At least one of everything. I remember walking through one time, and 2 seconds after I left the room, someone pointed to the floor and went, "Oh, there's a pet." And it was a 2001 that was just, again, sitting on the floor with junk piled on top of it. So it was quite an experience. And like I say, my part of that, my goal was to collect. And I now have a collection. I probably have 20, maybe 30, 35 different unique Tandy item, SKUs, different computers, most of which are the Tandy 1000 and above. But I do have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. I think I've got a 12. Yeah, that guy over there. Missed out on that. What was that? A 6000? It was just fell on eBay. So yeah, my goal is just to now kind of take a step back, let the dust settle, and start going through everything and seeing what works, what doesn't, and again, learn from you guys. I'm hearing and learning so much from you guys. It's amazing. So I'm happy to be here.
Good on you. Thanks for that, Eddie. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you'll join us in some future ones, some future trash talks. Okay,
will do.
then. All right, guys, we've got about 25 minutes before we got to wind up. Who else got anything to talk about? Sean?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Hey,
hey,
how you all doing? It's yeah, I'm not as much of a morning person as
I'm not a morning person either. I only do this for I don't know why I do this sometimes.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, I've been still hacking away at my code, trying to get it to do all the things faster. And by my code, I mean, yeah, running the old Infocom games and all of their friends. Yeah, one of the things that came up doing some speed testing was it turned out that using a lot of the spare upper memory banks was a lot slower than using using the smaller memory footprint and a least recently used disk cache. So it was actually faster just to IO straight out of a thread rather than pump it all into memory and use the @bank service call. That was a bit surprising. I would have thought memory would have trumped it, but no. And it wasn't a small amount either. So I ran, basically I tested it by running a ridiculously slow game because some of the games work really well. The ones that use the older style of parser, they're sort of, you can play them quite at quite a clip. But some of the newer ones that rely on having enormous amounts of memory, oddly enough, aren't designed for 8 bits. So as they expanded out how the system worked, they made it bigger and crazier. So I'm talking time-wise that to type a command like get all from shelf takes like 2 minutes. So
well, you press G for get, and then 3 seconds later the letter G comes up, or you mean the parsing of it?
The parsing of it. So so it's yeah, you can type away in real time. Happy days. It's quite responsive, and then you hit enter and yeah, go off, make a cup of coffee, you come back, and hopefully the results are there. It's yeah, it was. But that's all of the stuff that's been built in more recent times with so well and truly after Infocom stopped. So people decided that they would grow much larger games and see what they could do with them. So yeah, I thought it'd make a fun test just to see how badly some of them could run. And yeah, it was around 2 minutes, and it shaved about 30 seconds off it by using the using the thread with a with in-memory cache instead of popping it all, because my Model 4 has 4P has a 4-accelerator in it, so it does have a bit of a memory advantage. But yeah, it turned out that really no, it didn't. Like if you can write your code efficiently other ways. So yeah,
there's just no other ways to get these things to go any faster on a real TRS-80. That's
it's out of juice. But like I was going to say I've got a bit of an experiment here to see if this actually works. Let's see if this cute little system will actually show. Hey, look, it's a Model 4. So yeah, so to bring things up, I've the 4-cell. So it's got a TRS-IO plugged in, and that's sort of with the 4-accelerator doesn't boot the first time from it. So I ended up having to dig up this piece of software that some kind person put on the internet, and yeah, then I can bring up the usual thread menu. It pulls it straight over the Wi-Fi, boot that nice little guy, and then I can start playing some of the more interesting and fun games. So one of the ones that you'd all be familiar with, of course, is your usual Zork 1. It's Z3 because it's the third different language that they used, or third different format of their game that they used, game data file. I actually have made this compatible with the earlier one too, so you can actually have flashbacks and play on the exact same one as was on the Model 1. One of the fun things I've got is the text actually goes all the way to the edge. Back in the day, they kind of to manage screen scrolling and make it easier, they just shaved the last column off. So I actually went in a bit harder and did that properly. Now you'll find like it's pretty snappy. If I put in a couple of commands, this is the magic incantation that was used to demonstrate back in the day to Team Infocom that that Zork 1 on the Model 1 actually works. So it's just a couple of rooms around and enter in through the window, and it's, you know, that's fine and responsive enough to play, right? You're not going to get too bored with that. Certainly not the minutes that I found on the other one. If you play, well, one of the other whole point of this exercise was so that you could see it had a status, like one little status bar at top. That was way too limiting for them. So if we have a look at what Beyond Zork looks like, you'll get a much more interactive layout, because they improved all of the controls that you had for the screen. I've told it it's a deck 1, so it'll ask you whether it's a VT100. But yeah, it'll grind through the text quite quickly, quite responsively, and yeah, you can see that they've really messed with the format. So quite a lot of fun there. You can wander around. It's got a lot of features, including being able to define what the F keys do. So I can go in there and quickly type in look around or inventory, whatever. But where people really went mad with this stuff was not only does it have that, it's also got the built-in timer. So what you can also do then is use the more graphics end of it, and I use the word graphics loosely in a very Model 4 kind of way. Nope, wrong one. And it probably would be nicer if I built a loader as well, but so yeah, you've actually got like real-time games where you're trying to move a snake around the screen, and that's built on exactly the same interpreter that runs all of the text adventures. So people have gone to some crazy effort to abuse the language quite cleverly, and yeah, and come up with real-time games for a text adventure engine. Anyway, thought that was a little bit of fun. And I'll switch back to normal.
So
That's
Sean,
great.
the interpreters, did you write them completely in Z80 assembly language? Did you write them in C, or is it a combination?
It's 100% Z80. Yeah. There was no way that was going to be anything other than for that kind of speed. So if let's see if I can share. So yeah, I used ZMac, of course, and I used Sublime Text Editor to sort of build it. So this is the code in here on doing jumps. You'll notice that I've got way too many instructions commented out, and that's because I've done a lot of t-state counting to try to work out what would be faster. So you can see in here that I've sort of adjusted how additions were done and how it ran, and removed a few things. There's like so it goes through, it parses an instruction, so it fetches the next byte using a peek instruction, and then increments. It needed 24 bits to manage the address inside the file, because the file can be up to 512K. So yeah, so that made it a little slower than I would have liked, but yeah, found ways of speeding that up. And then it has a look at stores the instruction for debugging purposes, goes in, and then starts breaking it down and goes, is it a zero op, like as in an operand with no inputs, or does it have two, or is it variable, or is it one? And then yeah, breaks it down. So yeah, it's very tightly packed. The memory piece as well was all quite you can sort of see I put in to pull a word out of memory, because @bank was so slow. I ended up using the direct select, so checking the address and then selecting the correct bank and just pulling 16 bits straight out, switch it straight back, done. So that was the kind of level in there.
What assembler are you using?
So yeah, so ZMac turned out to be quite awesome, because I could. So I'm editing it in Sublime. I've just got a batch file that I run. It compiles it, copies it into a transfer disk. I can then mount that disk and pop that into GP, because which other emulator am I going to use? Right?
ZMac is very awesome. I just wanted to mention that if you make a listing file with ZMac, it'll include all the t-state and timing cumulative in the listing file, which is awesome when you're doing timing stuff.
It does. What the other timing thing I did was I actually used a number of use cases to try to test out timing. So I'm working with a guy who's doing the Commodore 64 version, and I guess we were in a bit of a competition to race them. So he built one. So he built a test adventure that was a quick sort algorithm for 1,000 elements, and so that was one thing that I used to count the total T states, so I could see how effective. And obviously, because it turned out that having an LRU disk cache was really useful, it meant that I could make easier decisions about quality. So I could make easy decisions about saying, all right, well, I've burnt far too many bytes for 0.01% improvement, forget it, like it's not worth it, or the other way around. So yeah, it was extremely helpful to do that. I also used the breakpoints to measure how long it took to do a single turn. So there's a couple of the slower games that I've used just to see in more real world, like rather than it, because quicksort's not going to use everything. So yeah, so a little more real world, running around a room and doing things just to see, yeah, as I made changes, what did it do?
Cool.
Oh, Sean, very, very impressive piece of programming and all the kind of the background software engineering that you've had to put together behind it. Very, very well done. Very impressive.
Thank you. Look, I was quite fortunate that there was a partial, a reasonably functional Z81 on another platform that I completely broke down and rebuilt. So I had some idea how to do some of it, but there was a lot of extra compatibility I added. So half the game formats I added to it. I rebuilt pretty much every piece of code from scratch to get the speed up. So the original version was done many years ago, and with a different mentality and not the same tools available at the time. So I kind of have an unfair advantage, I like to think.
Nice.
Well, we all do. I still try to write my Z80 assembly language on my Model 3 and using the way Pete Satinsky phrased it as period correct tools. But I have to admit that when I run into a difficult to track down bug, I hop right into one of the emulators because, having your TRS-80 encapsulated and being able to break everything down and monitor it so clearly is such a help. And a guy like John, you had to do all of your coding back in the day, writing very complex code without the kind of modern tools that we have. And boy, I my hat's off to you guys that wrote these very complex programs without the advent of our modern tools. It was a feat.
Absolutely.
Cool, guys. Let's see. Have I forgotten anyone? Sam, Paul Metcalf.
No worries, Mav. Working on a couple of things. One's a repair project. Little silver wooden box that sits on top of a Model 1 monitor that maybe everybody might know about.
The one that talks to you.
Well, it's supposed to. I've got to get a power supply for it. I seem to be having difficulty finding an appropriate wall wart that will handle the output. The 8-volt regulator is not outputting anywhere near 8 volts, and the 5-volt regulator is at 4.5 or so. So it sort of responds, but not really. So we got to get that.
They have funny power requirements, those voice synthesizers. I think they need an AC wall wart, don't they?
Yeah. I found a repair manual, factory service manual that somebody uploaded, and it says it's supposed to be 12.5 volts AC, 800 milliamp requirement. And that's where I seem to be running into problems, getting something that will handle the current. Because I'm finding a couple of 12.5 volt AC wall warts, but they're not, they don't seem to be putting out enough or being able to handle the current. They just fall on their face. So I may have to build something out of a couple of extra transformers I have and see where we're at there. Other than that, the new Chroma TRS, I finished it up last night actually, and tried to test it, and I'm having issues. So I believe it's the ribbon cable I have made up. So I don't know if I got something backwards or got a line crossed or something, but I get basically not irregular, but a regular repeating pattern of screen garbage when I plug it in on on the screen printer port. It just fills the screen up with BA repeatedly. So if I take it off the bus, the machine works like it's supposed to. So I don't know if it's my
You'll get there. You'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I did design a nice. Speaking earlier of 3D printed cases.
Oh, a few people will be after those, I think, Paul.
Maybe we got our joystick ports on the front.
That's enormous. What did it take? A week?
About 2 days.
Okay.
As everybody may recognize the board inside. So, what I did is I did a separate, we'll call it a power brick, and basically that's another 3D printed case. A couple of Meanwell boards in there, and I did go with the original 4116 RAM, so I have the 12-volt supply on it, and it's fed with a DIN cable, 5-pin DIN. Seems to handle the power load for it fine, but getting it so that it'll function on the machine, that's the next phase.
Paul, what software did you use to create your STL models?
I've just been using Tinkercad. It's like it's an online.
Yeah, I've been trying to use it, and I'm having an awful hard time doing it.
Yeah, there's a learning curve, but once you do get an aha moment with what you're messing with on the screen, it becomes less frustrating. There is definitely a learning curve, but I'd say it's easier than a full-blown CAD program.
John Wiggins, that's what he uses to print my sleds, and I try to learn how to use it, and I keep going back to him.
Yeah, it's not real difficult, but this started off with starting with a basic shape of I want to create a box, and then you mess with dimensions, and that's how I got to do this. And then it's the bed level thing of where you want, because a lot of times it just, when you start, it puts it floating in space, and it was a learning curve on what you have to hit to get that to go down to the work surface. So once it's on the work surface, it's fairly straightforward, and just the conversion for us folks here in the US that use imperial measurement instead of the rest of the world, they're crazy metric stuff. They're getting the conversions right, just a little calculating it, and the old carpenters, adage, measure twice, cut once.
Right.
Cut it 5 times, it's still too short. But then I just use once you do that, and for the printer, you run it through a slicer program that converts it into a G code for the printer, and off it goes. And I'd have to say it was probably about a day for each one, because I printed the main part, the box, as one file, and the lid as a separate file, not accounting for machine failure, filament tangling on the spool, because if you buy the cheap spool of filament from Amazon, don't recommend doing that, by the way. For a hobbyist printer, it does all right. I'd say it was worth the investment for me, because I've done 7 or 8 different projects now that if I'd had somebody else print it would have been way over what I paid for the printer. So
Sounds good. Cool. Nice to hear from you. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Yeah, no problem.
We're coming up on 2 hours. We'll just quickly go through. I can't tell if Ken and Sam are just listeners or had anything to say. So
I just thought I'd come in and say hi to everybody. How's it going?
Hey, Ken, good to see you.
Hi.
Late to the party as usual.
Good
Give
on
us
you,
some more
mate.
hints about the video kit. Come on.
Synchronous 68,000 memory transfers.
Ooh.
Sounds like witchcraft. Look forward to it.
That's all I'm going to say.
Good on you. You're bringing it to Tandy Assembly, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm not, but IV is.
Oh, cool.
That would be me. Yeah. That, and I'll be also bringing probably my last batch of keyboard adapters.
Cool. Have you been to Tandy Assembly before, John? I can't remember.
Yeah, I went the
He went the
year.
year of COVID.
Yeah,
You
I went
weren't
last
there.
year.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that's
wasn't
when he
there.
wasn't
I
there.
gave a talk, you know.
Yep.
Just purely coincidence that you weren't there.
Okay.
I got a Tandy 6000 shirt from him.
And he was on the trivia contest, don't you?
The trivia contest.
Yeah, the one that you didn't win because you weren't there. Yeah,
That's
that one.
right.
Yeah. I won't be winning any more of them. All right, guys. Any last words before we wrap this thing up?
Is your son
Dusty?
coming? Ian, is your son coming?
If he saves some money, he will, but he's spending it faster than he can make it at the moment. So, and I'm sick of him resorting to the bank of dad.
I think a few of us are well familiar with that bank of dad thing.
Well, I hope
Yeah, it's a thing here in
makes it.
Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he makes it.
He's buying all those pints and parmas.
Yeah, I
Maybe
know.
we need to start a GoFundMe.
Yes.
It's all that. It's all those food things he have, the trains and everything.
Oh yeah, he has.
really big.
Yeah, I know. We've given him a life to to aspire to. That's for sure. All right, Dusty, you wanted to say something before we go?
Yeah, just a quickie. Any further news of Sid Trug and Errol?
If Aaron was here, we'd ask. So no, nothing to report at the moment, unfortunately. Maybe next time. Tim, did you have something you wanted to say, or were you just waving your hand around before?
No, I was just saying bye. But
Oh, you're saying bye. All right. Okay, everyone. Thanks
Everybody.
Mav,
for joining us.
Mav, I got one
all
last
right,
little
yep.
one for you, Mav. One last
Yep.
little one related to Jay's record collection question.
Oh yeah.
5 live Yardbirds featuring Jimmy Page. Do you have it?
I don't have that one.
Ah,
I do have some Yardbirds records, but not that specific one.
Should have gone with that one, Jay.
I know. Now I know.
No, the problem with Jay's one was that he was too broad. He just said a Nat King Cole album. I mean,
I know.
if you've been collecting
Think.
records, remember I bought my first record in 1977. I was 7. To annoy my parents, I bought an AC/DC record as my first ever record. Let There Be Rock. Let There Be Rock.
There you
It's a
go.
really
Good
great
album.
album.
Good start.
And I've been collecting records ever since. So there's a several thousand here. It's be surprised if I don't have anything from
you
from
probably
most
have
artists.
me. You probably have me beat there. Then I have probably several hundred, but not several thousand. So
Yeah. Well, the thing I know we're going over time here, but the thing was in that golden period around 1990 to 93 when everyone was moving over from LPs to CDs.
Yeah.
They would say, Mav, we got our whole collection of classic albums from the 60s through to the 80s. We've bought CDs. You just want to come and take the albums. And that way I end up with like 5 copies of Sticky Fingers by the Rolling Stones and 10 copies of Tapestry by Carole King. But you end up with an enormous eclectic collection of classic albums from that
but
period.
do you have Sticky Fingers with the working zipper on the front?
Still trying to get that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever released that here. It might have been an England or US only thing, but
Like
definitely
nobody thought people would still be playing records in 2022, just like nobody thought people would be playing with TRS-80s.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. Nostalgia is a strange thing. All right, everyone. Next,
Have a
next
nice
one we're going to
Fourth.
be
Have a good
number 27 will be the last one before Tandy Assembly, I think.
Yep.
That sound about right?
We might have two.
Mav.
We can fit in two.
Thanks,
Cool.
Pete.
All right,
Later,
bye
guys.
everyone. Catch
Happy
us
Fourth,
later.
everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.